Hello, I'm Rue, and today is all about character design. If it wasn't already obvious by the few videos I've done on the topic, or that I have many OCs, I really like designing characters. I love the freedom and creativity that comes from designing clothing and playing around with the aesthetics, which is why I thought it would be fun to make a video going over my process. I don't really want this to come across as a tutorial, as I don't like tutorials if I'm going to be honest. I never like following them. So take this video as a way to inspire creativity instead of just using it as this is the right way to design a character, because I don't think it would be. This was also voted on by my audience, so thank you for the 35% of you who wanted this video. Congratulations, it's here finally. Now with that all out of the way, let's get into part 1. Starting off, we have the ideas phase. This is where I take the little funky concept that's been floating around in my head and throw as much research and images at a piece of paper to try and give it life. I always like to start off with a good expansive mood board, exploring the aesthetics this character will have, their interests, some character inspirations, because it leads to me being able to flesh out this in the sketch phase later on. This normally can range from aesthetics, especially if I want trying to convey a certain time period or like this vibe the character will have, or maybe a set of poses which could best present their personality. I like to try and find anything that I think will just be an interesting design element and just whack it onto the mood board. I'm definitely a hoarder when it comes to saving images because my iPad has so many folders for just inspiration, like be it poses, art styles, you know, general just design choices. I have a problem, but I honestly will say if you're taking anything away from this video, I do highly recommend saving stuff that inspires you. I tend to flip through these folders when I need a boost of inspiration when I'm just starting a project or starting designing something so I can flesh it out later on, and it also avoids me from doom scrolling on like Pinterest or something like that. As for today's subject, I've always wanted to do that, creating a character from a mood board challenge, so I hopped onto Pinterest and chose randomly, and this is the result. I really like the kind of green and sort of whimsy twee aesthetic it kind of has. It's kind of giving bug. I really like the whole bug aesthetic, it's really cute. Now that we've gotten the ideas down, let's get into the concept and sketching phase. After collecting my references, I normally like to start sketching my ideas down in my sketchbook. I'm able to be quite fluid and quick, which is why I prefer doing my initial ideas there before jumping to a digital medium to do the colour tests and final design. Plus, I get to use my many highlighters. I basically like to use this sketch phase as a way to play around with images I've collected, try and pick out the visual elements that I think would look good together and then mismatch them to see which ones really work in the final design. This is best seen when it comes to designing the outfit. I found this caterpillar scarf which I felt would fit this bug theme that was going on with the character, and so I kind of just plopped it on different designs to see if it would actually work well with the final. Apart from outfits, I also use the sketching phase as a way to figure out the character's silhouette for the shape language. Silhouettes are normally used for abstracting or adding detail, but for me I purely do it for picking in the design for the head or body, so then I can figure out what their shape language would be. If it wasn't already obvious by any of my designs, but I love shape theory, I really like to lean heavily into it as I believe stylization can really make your design pop and can really take you away from same face syndrome, especially if you make the characters' heads all different shapes. For the people who don't already know what shape theory is the use of shapes within a character design. So a protagonist or friendly character would be depicted with circles or ovals, where a more villainous or mean character will have a large emphasis on triangles. I really like to use it to portray personality or hidden intent a character have. For example, my OC Gravity is made up of circles presenting youth and this appearance of friendliness, but with an underlying hint of triangles seen in the hair and jacket to show that they're hiding something more villainous underneath when they're in a silhouette mode. So when it came to the design here, I really wanted to give her this apple silhouette with her hair, as I felt it would make her more round and friendly while keeping up this bug and fruit theme that was already seen in the mood board. I really want her to have this carefree personality, which I wanted to present in the outfit, so I leant towards more rounder shapes in the language, again with this sort of flowy sort of appearance in the dress. Before finalising a design, I like to digitally thumbnail the concept I have made in the sketch phase. I may have had a final design in mind when I was in the concept phase, but having all the designs laid out before me is a great way to fully understand what does and doesn't work, especially when it comes to colour and design clashes. An example is the cardigan design. I really liked it in the sketch phase, but when I was testing around with colour and trying to style it with a scarf, it just kept on looking a little bit too bland. This was the design I had originally set out in mind as the final, but I was very happy I played around with the others because I was able to see the long sleeve and shirt combo looked more appealing, and I felt I could create more interesting patterns with that one. Colour theory is also a very important part of this phase, as it really helps to bring your character all together. I like to pick out a signature colour for my character, as I will use it mainly as the prominent colour within the design. And also I feel like giving your character a colour that best represents them can really set them apart from your other cast of characters if you're making, a larger story or universe. In this case it's green, as it was quite prominent on the mood board, and I just really wanted to lean into her being a caterpillar because I thought it would be cute. I will also pick out 2 complementary colours to help elevate the signature colour, as it really just helps to bring the design together. In this case I played around with reds and pinks and browns to see what would stick with the green, as these were also colours present on the mood board and I feel like could actually fit this sort of whimsy twee aesthetic. Afterwards I will mash the design choices I liked from the base lineup together and start messing around with the colour scheme and design elements. I definitely think this is a great way to flesh out your design, especially if you are stuck. I was definitely finding creating this character quite tricky, especially design wise, but having a base colour with elements I already believe work together can really help you narrow down what you need to add and subtract. In this case I ended up making the short sleeve skirt into a button up, which has been tucked into a skirt. I feel like this flows a lot better than the original design, as you couldn't really read the skirt well with the dress, as they both blended into each other too much. I also started leaning towards more patterns here, and the skirt now sporting a Fruitiger Metro style, and the button up and trim of the skirt being more checkered, as I felt like it could elevate that kind of pattern. I felt this really made the design more detailed and interesting. I definitely think spending time playing around with a design can really help you flesh out your concept into something more satisfying, which if I hadn't done it here, I don't think this design would have been that interesting. After finally figuring out the design, I will either create an illustration or a character sheet just so I can clean up the design and make everything more readable. In this case, I'll be creating an illustration piece, as I don't have a story to put in, but it does mean I get to make a fun background. When finalizing a design, I like to pose the character in a way that best shows off their personality. I don't really like drawing my characters just standing stagnant, so I will always try to pose the character's hand or body in a kind of expressive way that could convey to the viewer their personality. Here I wanted to show through body language that she is quite welcoming. This is shown in her waving to the viewer and how she leaves her chest quite open, showing that she is quite extroverted and she's outgoing. She doesn't care what other people think about her. I also think posing can really bring more life into the design, as it can convey a lot more through movement that you can't with a simple standing pose. I genuinely think more people should be posing their characters more expressively than just having them stand there. I actively try to make all my characters have very different poses which help present their personality. Like, this is a great way to show how your character will act around other people, like what their main personality trait is. Like, are they bold? Are they angry? Are they closed off? Are they interested or intrigued with the world? But if you have a pretty solid personality in mind for your character, I feel like you can find a pose that would best suit that already. I definitely think when designing to keep in mind what you're creating this design for. If you plan on drawing them over and over again for an animated project or a comic, making the design more simplistic will definitely be a lot more easier for you. But if you're making your design for an illustration piece like this, then I suggest adding more detail if you want. Just keep in mind, will this be annoying if you want to draw this design over and over again? Lastly, it's time to colour the piece. This is where I start fixing up the colours with the help of values. Desaturating your piece is a great way to figure out if your colours are harmonious together and what needs to be tweaked if they aren't. For example, you wouldn't want 2 light colours to be next to each other because both 2 shades will start blending into each other. So the best way to do that is to either make your colour brighter or darker. This is also a great way to create contrast while also being able to draw attention to certain aspects of the design. I believe in this case it's the light skirt that is really eye-catching, which also helps bring more awareness to the pattern on it as well. And that's how I design my characters. Well, kind of. I didn't really say everything, but this is just the base gist about it. But I hope you enjoyed this brief guide of my main process. This is my first time creating something like this, so I apologize if it isn't the most coherent guide ever, but neither is my character design, so you win some, you lose some. I don't do tutorials. I hope this pleased the 9 people who voted for it, and if you thought this was entertaining, then I guess like, share and subscribe, and maybe give me a cheeky little comment if you have been inspired to create your own character. Or maybe you just like the character design. And with that, I've gotta go, so I hope I see you in the next one. Bye!